What is going on, guys? Sorry for if that's loud. Apologies. I just quickly got everything set up here for the news of the what shall we say year off season program history, whatever we want to call it. It is official. Dylan Raiola is a Nebraska Cornhusker, officially flipped, announced a little bit ago from Hayes Fawcett over on X. It's official, guys. We've been waiting all week for this news. We've kind of gotten the ringer, the runaround. We're going to go through a little bit of this week's things that have happened over the course of the week. Not only with Raiola, but with everything else on the front of the National Signing Day being on the horizon. If my sound's good, if y'all could just let me know if my sound's good, I'm just going to get everything pulled up here on the screen for y'all. Yeah, so officially broke a little bit ago. Like I said, as you all know, probably Dylan Raiola is in the boat at Nebraska. What does this mean for Nebraska? What is this going to lead to in the near future? What are we going to see? Is this going to impact National Signing Day? We're going to go through a little bit of that here, catch all up on some of the stuff that you may not have seen over the week. Maybe a couple of visitors, surprise visitors this weekend while Raiola was in town as well. So let's get into it. But first things first, the big news. Let me pull it up here. Dylan Raiola is a Husker and is probably the most monumental recruit in my lifetime. Well, I haven't been around that long, but I missed the heydays of the 90s. So for me, this is big time. This is big time. This is a program changing level move. We are also still in the boat for guys like Julian Fleming. A couple of other 4-star guys that are potential on Flip Watch. Some that, Dylan Raiola, the news of Raiola might help get them in the boat in 2024. So let's see how this works out. First things first, let's go into Raiola's numbers a little bit here. So, breaking down Raiola and what it means for Nebraska. Okay, so let's compare what we're talking about to Nebraska's previous QB room, right? And I did this, and I broke these numbers down kind of in a previous live stream, but I want to go into them a little bit more here. What does the Raiola commitment mean for Nebraska in terms of what this offense looks like, what this offense is going to run? First off, I know people have said, coming into this, he is a true freshman. He's not going to be able to start immediately. He's not going to be able to play and produce immediately. And for those people, I caution you on that, because if you go back to 2018 and you look at all of the top recruits, quarterback recruits, and in the top 3 over the course of the last few years, a lot of those guys have gone on to be very successful as true freshmen. And in this instance, Dylan Raiola being one of the top of the 5 stars. I know On3 has their 5-star plus, as they like to call it. That is the top of the top of their 5 stars, right? And that's what Raiola is. This isn't just your normal, typical run-of-the-mill true freshman starting quarterback. This is a big-time program-changing talent. Georgia, again, Carson Beck. We saw the writing on the wall earlier. Carson Beck returned back to Georgia. That was announced about an hour and a half ago. That pretty much was the indication we needed to know right there, to know that Raiola was committed and in. He'd been there all weekend. We had been speculating when it was going to happen. I think the timing right now is perfect. We know yesterday they had the volleyball game, so didn't want to up in that. But additionally, with National Signing Day right around the corner on Wednesday, it was important to get this news broken quickly, so that way those guys can see, and we can get some of these, potential other guys see that, hey, Raiola's in the boat. Let's try to finish off this class. And let's try to not only that, but looking forward to 2025 and 2026. This impact goes far beyond just the quarterback position. Okay. This is going to make guys, skill position guys, want to come play here. Okay. I'm going to put this in a little bit of perspective here. The offense last season, looking at the offense last season, big picture, we all know how bad it was. Okay. Recruits, looking at that offense and that performance of this past year's team, looking at the defense, great. We're able to get defensive recruits and stuff like that. Offensive recruits would have been hard to come by, especially if we would not have been able to make a big splash in the transfer portal market. This completely changes the entire trajectory of the program, not only at the quarterback position, but now those guys that potentially weren't going to be in the boat are now starting to look this direction. Some of the top guys in the 2024 or 25, 26 class are going to start looking this direction. You swing big at one fish, and it's going to lead to a lot more, especially at the quarterback position. Of all positions on the field, the quarterback position is the most important. And these guys are going to want to come play for a guy like Raiola. If you followed Raiola throughout his recruiting process, he is an excellent peer recruiter. He recruited a ton of guys to Georgia. He was very similar to what Danny Kaelin did for Nebraska with this 24 class, right? Danny Kaelin was the guy that was leading the charge, getting out there, peer recruiting. You know, he was able to get Carter Nelson, able to get some other guys in here or assisting getting them in here. That's something we'll get on a little bit later too. Daniel Kaelin also staying at Nebraska. I know a lot of people are happy to hear that. I'm going to start going through some of your comments here in just a little bit. First things first, though, I'm going to run through a little bit of Raiola's numbers and what he brings to the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So, Raiola in 2023 at Buford. Now, Buford, a program in Georgia, it's a very, nationally high ranked high school program. It's tough talent over there in Buford. He went over there to play against top talent. Okay. So a lot of the people talk about the drop off from his junior year to his senior year of high school, right? Much stiffer competition. But when looking at the film, when looking through the numbers, right? He had 11-2 record at Buford, led the Wolves quarterfinals in Georgia's highest, the highest classification they have over there. 159 of 250 on pass attempts, 63.6% completion percentage. 2,189 yards, 34 touchdowns, just one interception. Ran for 3 touchdowns. So the thing about Raiola, too, what jumps off in the film and what I think he's going to be able to bring to Nebraska that we did not have last year, okay? Raiola is not a statue in the pocket. Raiola is mobile. Reminds me, I would say, I've heard comparisons to Big Ben, right? I know he's not Big Ben, right? But just in the way he operates in the pocket, right? He's very strong in the pocket. He has a strong, solid base. Okay. So what you see in his film is you'll see a lot of times, even when the play breaks down, he's under pressure. Whether he's taking a hit, there's times where he's wrapped up his lower body, he's going down and he's still making a throw deep down the field. Okay. What Nebraska lacked last year, and again, I got some numbers on this from before. What we lacked last year was the deep ball, right? Nebraska's deep ball percentage from our quarterback room as a whole, it was 43% on yards on 20. On passes 20 yards or more down the field, 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Right? There was zero deep pass threat unless it was just kind of a broken play. Again, Iowa, brought those box safeties down. They tried to get a little cute and blitz, and we were able to beat them over the top. We had some speed, but it was not consistent. What we remember that brought us to the forefront, and what was able to get Trey Palmer, all of his opportunities, was his ability to stretch the field, right? And Nebraska sorely missed that last year. It wasn't necessarily that we always didn't have the ability to stretch the field. It's that we didn't have a guy to get them the ball. It wasn't necessarily the receivers. We had speed. We had team speed out there. We had guys in space. We had guys open in numerous occasions. It seemed to me that the ability to get them the ball, and in the numbers, the ability to get them the ball just wasn't there. Dylan Raiola, if you watch his film, the guy makes tight window throws, deep throws, 50, 40 yards down the field, money. Whether he's running under pressure, whether he's throwing off platform, he makes great off-balance throws. He's able to keep his eyes down the field. And that's one of the things that Nebraska lacked this year. Satterfield loves to get big. He loves to get physical. He likes to use his tight ends, but he likes to stretch the field. He likes to throw the deep ball. I know Satterfield was much maligned this past season. I understand that. But now that he's got a quarterback like this that fits what he wants to do, Raiola, big kid, big physical kid, right? Got an arm. He can move, right? But he's a passer first. Exactly what Satterfield wants. Satterfield runs a pro-style offense, okay? He huddles. He loves to huddle, and this is the exact quarterback he needs. He's got a guy who can go out there and command the offense. Right now, what it's going to come down to, because even though he is a 5-star, right, is development. Okay. We've speculated for the last, you know, X amount of weeks what we're going to do at, you know, quarterback coach. Is Satterfield going to continue to coach quarterbacks? There's rumors about Christensen, but I don't want to dive into rumors right now just because we've seen how much of the rumors have thrown us all, you know, awry here in recent weeks. But again, Dylan Raiola's in. Let me get to some of y'all's comments here. Bone Lake Cornfed, appreciate you hopping in. Shocked and great. Yes, sir. Go Big Red. Let's see. Man of the world, do you believe me or not? Matt Rhule. Yeah, I love it. Nebraska currently ranked 25th. Is that in recruiting rankings or just in general? Appreciate it, John. Appreciate you hopping in here, and appreciate the love and support. Go Big Red. That's right. So it's a happy day, guys. I know it is. It is a good day to be a Cornhusker. That is for sure. Keep your comments coming in here. If y'all have any questions on what I think or anything like that, I will touch on those here momentarily. Okay. How did this all go down? Well, over the weekend, right? Or let's start last week. Last week, we had Kyle McCord in town Monday. And, you know, I think a lot of people forgot about how exactly this went down. Kyle McCord came into town Monday and was visiting with, you know, Julian Fleming was going to be in Tuesday. And, you know, Kyle McCord was pretty much for a second. But Kyle McCord was in town Monday. Okay. And a lot of people speculated that when we missed on McCord, that we were also going to miss on Raiola. I'm not 100% sure why. You know, these were two completely separate situations. What we got to understand is, you know, the Raiola news about the potential flip didn't even break until after McCord was already on campus. So McCord's here, right, with his dad, and we'll get into the dad situation a little bit more. But and then all of a sudden, the news breaks that Raiola's potentially, you know, flipping to Nebraska, and we'll be visiting this weekend, right? What did that mean for McCord? Well, for McCord, that meant he was going to from a situation where, you know, there was a potential QB competition, and he wanted to leave that because naturally he needs this season. He needs this season. He wants to go pro, so he's gonna need to be the starter. He didn't want to face any friction. Okay. Coming over into Nebraska when he was visiting that Monday, that news broke. All of a sudden, you know, we're thinking, okay, well, what does this mean for McCord? Then we're starting to hear rumblings of, well, you know, it'll be fine. McCord will be fine. He still wants to be in Nebraska. This is the way it was written, you know, written out. They both know this is how it's going to be. McCord's going to play for a year. Raiola's going to come sit behind him for a year, and then he's going to take over. Well, as we saw as the week played out, Kyle McCord, quote unquote, moved forward from the process of with being with Nebraska, and moved on elsewhere, you know, outside of there. Reports came a little bit later that it was, in fact, Matt Rhule saying no. And I'm not sure which of those are true. I've heard both. But moral of the story is, and I spoke with somebody who knows the Ohio State side very well. McCord's dad was very much the shot caller in this situation, right? And as we know, you know, Donovan and Dominic very much, you know, intertwined into the Nebraska, you know, Nebraska Cornhuskers football culture. And of course, they have a big say in this. Okay. So you have a guy like Kyle McCord with whose dad is coming in, he's trying to call the shots. And then you have a guy like Dylan Raiola, who, you know, whose uncle is the O-line coach, and his dad is just a, you know, historic Husker player, played in the NFL. And there seemed to be some kind of conflict of the mind, some kind of conflict of those guys, right? And didn't sit right with some. So somewhere along the way, Kyle McCord moved on. Okay. And what that did was that caused a lot of panic in Husker Nation, because then we're like, oh, okay, everything we're led to believe so far has been a lie. And that wasn't necessarily the case, you know, and for the people who, you know, mentioned Daniel Kalen, credit to Daniel Kalen, was going to go to Michigan State to visit, but as soon as the news broke, or around the time the news broke that McCord wasn't, going to be coming to the Huskers, he kind of canceled that, and we found out later on that he was back in the boat. So that brings us a little bit forward to where we are now. Julian Fleming and Kyle McCord. Now let me just touch on Julian Fleming here, because Julian Fleming still very much is a possibility. Okay, Julian Fleming has not gone anywhere just yet, right? I know there was a crystal ball into Penn State, but Julian Fleming is very much still in the cards here. Julian Fleming and Kyle McCord were never a package deal. I know that was the speculation. I know a lot of people thought to be the case. This is business, okay? We're in the NIL game, and we are in the NIL business. This has turned into specifically a business of college football. These guys are not in it to be a package deal with their buddies. I mean, sometimes that may be the case, but they're going to go where they get the best opportunity to play, and or the best money, and or the best opportunity, or all of the above, right? If Nebraska can still give that to Julian Fleming, and I think Nebraska has a lot more to offer than Syracuse, Kyle McCord going to Syracuse, then he very much still in play, and this could play a factor in also trying to land somebody like him. Okay. That being said, let me get into some of your comments about Raiola before I move on to any of the other stuff. Recruiting ranking after getting Dylan, I think somebody said it would jump up to like 19 or so when I was looking. I saw somewhere last week, Georgia fan, I understand why he left. Nebraska ranked 19 in the recruiting class. Yeah, that's about what I was saying. McCord's dad giving LeVar Ball a run for his money. Absolutely. That's a name I heard in a while, LeVar Ball. Watching from the Philippines. I appreciate you tuning in, man. Go Big Red, everyone. Absolutely. It is a celebration today. Everyone, did you watch Nebraska Cornerstone women volleyball against Texas yesterday? All right, let's not pull that. Let's not talk about that. We're going to talk about the good stuff right now. But anyways, yeah. So Dylan came onto campus, was on campus Friday. And the other things that were impacting, good signs in the week, there was 4 other players from Buford that Nebraska had offered. We had a 2026 linebacker, CJ Sibley, 2026 D lineman, James Morrow, 2026 defensive lineman, Bryce Perry, right, who was a 4-star, and 2024 offensive lineman, Braden Jacobs, who is the son of New York Giants running back Brandon Jacobs, by the way. So Braden Jacobs, 2024 offensive lineman, son of Brandon Jacobs, former Giants running back. Visitors this weekend. There was a few more visitors this weekend that were kind of surprised with the Raiola visit as well. So we had 4-star Dylan Williams, who was committed to Oregon, and 3-star Vincent Shavers, who was committed to Miami. Vincent Shavers is very important right now because I believe Vincent Shavers got a couple of crystal balls today. So looking at here, we have a future cast for Vincent Shavers to Nebraska on Rivals. We had one on A Change in Confidence on 24/7, put in by Sean Callahan. Steve Wiltfong, who's the director of recruiting, put in one for Vincent Shavers as well. And then, of course, we have Larry Tarver Jr., 3-star cornerback, and then Bly Hill, a defensive back transfer. So all of these things leading into National Signing Day on Wednesday. What can we be looking at on National Signing Day on Wednesday? Well, the first thing that we're going to want to pay attention to is Nebraska's room right now on the roster. Okay, so as we spoke about it last week, Nebraska they were over, I would say, probably by about 11, 12 spots. And that was before some of this movement. Okay. What does this mean? We might see a little bit of movement, whether it be decommits or commitments. Not sure how the positioning is going to go because we are still in the boat for a few flips. And I'm not going to lie to you, the staff is going to take some of these guys that are on the radar of potential flips over some of these other guys that may already be in the boat or that they're looking at. So we might see some of the guys exit and some new enter the fold. So everything's going to have a give and a take right now. Nothing's going to happen without a reason. So pay attention, pay very close attention to the type of moves that happen, whether that be the positions, see what kind of positions, if we lose a commit here or something here and there, look at the guys we're going after. What position do they play? What does that indicate by the guys, going off the boat, as PJ Fleck might say. I don't want to use boat references because it reminds me of PJ Fleck, but that's something to pay a lot of attention to. But there's not a lot of time. I mean, we got 48 hours until 2 days until National Signing Day. And then, of course, we got a couple of visitors coming in January, but we'll touch on those later. Vincent Shavers right now, though, it's looking like he is probably the most likely to be next in the boat. Vincent Shavers, a linebacker, by the way, linebacker for what it's worth. They just said that this is the highest rated recruit in Nebraska history, besides Marlon Lucky. I think Marlon Lucky might have been the highest, but this one is just Marlon Lucky, a running back. We remember Marlon Lucky, right? Marlon Lucky, a running back. I think what this turns into, and somebody had a comment right here. Where is it at? Well, I'm going to eat crow. I think a lot of people are eating crow right now. That's the funny thing, though. But the thing is, right now, like, this is something that I think everybody is okay with being wrong about. I think this is something everybody is perfectly comfortable with being wrong about. But football team going to spring game, I'm right about that. Regardless of any outside factors may have helped this occur, this flip is an absolutely huge win for Matt Rhule era. Yes. And this is the biggest thing, okay? This offseason, as we talked about it before, was the most important, okay? Where does Matt Rhule make his biggest jumps? From year 1 to year 2. And I apologize for the rambling. I hopped on here, and we're just going to let this fly. I'm here to take y'all's comments. I'm just kind of shooting from the hip. We're going to go. But Matt Rhule's biggest jumps in each of his programs at Temple and Baylor was from years 1 and 2, okay? And this is why, we were kind of all, cautiously optimistic this year. We did get our hopes up a little bit, but it's because everything that we wanted was right in front of us. Everything that we thought we could potentially be was right in front of us. Not a lot of us coming into the season were were expecting a bowl game, but a lot of us were hopeful. We got one game away. And the way we went about it and losing those 4 games at the end of the season is what kind of threw everybody off. And that's what kind of just made us look at this in more of a vacuum, as opposed to kind of how we were looking at it before, which is just, this is a slow build. This is a slow, gradual build, right? Now I think everybody's going to kind of dial that back, right? We're going to start seeing big picture. Everybody was calling for Marcus Satterfield to be fired, this, that, and the third, okay? Now, this past season was a great season in a nutshell to get a lot of these younger guys experience. Okay. Nebraska injured left and right. As we know, the whole offense was down with injury. It felt like the entirety of the season. Now we're in a position to where those guys get experience. We didn't make the bowl game, but now doesn't that look like a little bit of a blessing in disguise that we didn't make the bowl game? Because now they were able to get the wheels turning on this. What was thought to be an impossible feat, which was Raiola was long gone, is now all of a sudden attainable. Another thing too is just with Raiola getting the extension, right? A lot of people were implying that with his extension that this was due to him, getting Dylan back, into the fold and stuff like that. I think it's quite the opposite. I think he just did a good job, and I think very much so that he was just improving our offensive line to the point where he earned that extension. And Damon Benning pointed out a good thing the other day. Damon Benning stated that, it might have worked the opposite way. It might have been more so that Dylan saw that, his uncle, who's on the staff, suddenly is getting paid more and is probably more likely to retain his position, as the offensive line coach there. What more incentive would he need? That's another good look for him to be able to come over and say, like, okay, I know that he's going to be there with me, and I know he's fronting up those guys that are going to be protecting me on this offensive front. So bringing him over and getting that extension, it might have worked the opposite. It might have been less because, like people were saying, we doubled his pay because he was able to get Dylan back in. It might be Dylan became back in because the security and the job security, of his uncle there coaching the offensive line. And the offensive line looked great. We got Grant Bricks in. which is also good for him. Carter Nelson, we have multiple tight ends now. Again, like I said, Satterfield likes to use 2 tight end sets, get big, get heavy. Now we have multiple athletic tight ends to use at Raiola's disposal. And drop in the comments here. I'm really curious on everybody's take. Do you think that, what is your take on true freshman starting quarterback? Do you think Nebraska will be a bowl eligible team next year? Do you think Nebraska win 9 games, 10 games? What do you think this looks like in year 1 with a potential true freshman coming in, if he indeed is the starter? There's other rumblings of Casey Thompson. I saw yesterday some screenshots of a Twitter post, Instagram story with close friends. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not here to speculate. I'm not huge on speculation and stuff like that, but I would need to see a lot more news on that before I begin to speculate. But I think that it might be Raiola, the guy. But I'm going to take in some of your comments here. This may impact whether Fleming commits or not. Exactly. Yeah. Fleming right now was, I think, projected to go to Penn State, or a Penn State lean crystal ball was the last projection, but this might be what we need to get him in the boat and other people in the boat as well. Fleming isn't coming since yesterday. So Fleming got a crystal ball. I don't think he's actually committed anywhere. From what I've heard, he is 100% still kind of in the picture, day by day building. Yeah. And another thing too, earlier in the season, Matt Rhule, when reporters were asking the tough questions, he was like, this is what you hired me for. If you wanted it to be an overnight fix, that's not what you hired me for. He was even when the fans were panicking, when the media were panicking. Sorry, just need some water. Matt Rhule was always calm, cool, collected. He kept the same composure, the same demeanor the entire time. Matt Rhule, he doesn't feel pressure, I feel like, because it's like he knew with his relationship building, his ability to maintain relationships with these kids, it's like he part of him knew that he would always have an outside chance with Raiola if something did go south. What did happen at Georgia, still am not sure. There's a lot of speculation from other Georgia, fans and creators alike that I've spoke with, that they don't feel that Kirby Smart is very much into the NIL. He's one of those kind of come in and earn it, and then you'll get paid that type of money. Very, very much like Dabo. Dabo and Clemson are kind of like that. Dabo was very much, I guess, resistant to the NIL. He's kind of starting to realize that in today's modern day and age, to keep up with, the Joneses, you have to be able to pay, and you have to be willing to pay some of these kids, as hard as it is, and as hard as it is going from a program who's able to bring in 5-star after 5-star, blue chip after blue chip. Well, now, some of these guys, they can go and they can be a blue chip amongst a bunch of other blue chips, or they can get paid a hefty bag to go to a school like a Nebraska and put them back on the map. And what that does for a person's stardom, what that would do for a person's career, what that does for a person's name, I don't think there's any other job in college sports that comes with probably the notoriety, the fanfare of being the guy that turns Nebraska around. I honestly don't. We see the impact that, Nebraska has just on social media with these guys talking about the fan base, etc. And to think that the fans don't play a huge part in this, it's crazy. The fans were out there almost everywhere Raiola went. He was spotted somewhere. Okay. He was signing autographs. He was doing this. He looked happy. He looks happy to be here. He looks happy to be a Husker. And he officially is a Nebraska Cornhusker. All right. Again, let me pull up some of these stats here that I had from last year's quarterback room. 1 second here. Let me pull these up. Okay. I ran through some of these numbers the other day on the live stream, but I'm going to run back through a few of them here in a little bit. So All right. So Satterfield. Let's talk a little bit about Marcus Satterfield in this offense, okay? And what he does and what he's done in the past, okay? He was much maligned for this offense this year, right? And I get why. And a lot of people thought that we would be going, Kyle McCord wouldn't be a good fit, or a big physical, pocket quarterback wouldn't be a good fit. Well, here's why that's wrong, or why they are a good fit. All that Satterfield has done in each school, right? We're talking about fit. South Carolina, when he was over at South Carolina, they had the third most passing yards in school history, fourth most points, sixth most total yards. Okay. Satterfield likes to pass the ball. It's not just running quarterback, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. No, he runs with a purpose. He runs for a reason. He likes the physical run to set up the pass. Like I said, in this past season, we weren't able to get kind of the offense unlocked that he wants. We were able to unlock somewhat of a short to intermediate pass game, but we weren't able to get into more of a middle to deeper pass game. And that's where his offenses shine the most. At Carolina, 4,100 passing yards to 1,700 rushing yards his offenses had there. Okay, over at Baylor, his tight ends were the main contributor to his passing attack over at Baylor. They threw for more than 250 yards per game and a rushing attack that averaged over 165, which I believe was probably his most balanced to date. So 250 and 165 is kind of what, that's kind of what he wants his offense to look like. Now, we talk about how bad his offense is, but, we go back and we look at Mike Riley. Riley's West Coast offense, it got worse each and every year. It started 42nd, and then it dropped into the 50s, then it dropped in the 60s and then 80s. So we got Frost, right? Frost's up-tempo offense. He came out and, was like, the Big Ten's going to have to mold, going to have to adapt to what we do. Well, Scott Frost's highest ranked offense was 58th. Okay. That, they may have scored a lot of points, but those offenses were not efficient. And efficiency ranks, as efficiency goes, those offenses were 9th and 10th in the Big Ten in efficiency overall. So, volume is one thing, efficiency is another. Okay. Looking at last year's quarterback room as a whole in, the completion percentage, we had 16 touchdowns, 15 fumbles, 17 interceptions. Raiola did not turn the ball over much. And that's one thing I can say about him, why his numbers didn't jump off the page as comparatively to what people wanted to see from his junior year. The touch that he has on his ball and the decision-making that he has, and even the trust in his arm. And I think that's the biggest thing that Nebraska lacked this year, somebody who had trust in their arm, right? How many opportunities did we miss because we didn't have the ability to even be confident that we can throw the ball to the open man? Okay. That in and of itself kept defenses tight in the box and was able to keep that short intermediate pass game in front of them. And that's why whenever we did have that going, it was able to be quickly stalled. Let me see if I can, let me just pull these. I just got some notes here that I'm trying to pull up for y'all. And other news too, just so I can put that out. Gifford, Benhart, Bullock, as I'm sure y'all have all saw by now, are coming back as well. So, and then shout out to all the Nebraska Cornhuskers. If y'all haven't had a chance, everybody who posted about their graduation, over the weekend, shout out to them, all the Huskers. Anthony Grant, a few of them posted those onto Twitter about, their graduations and stuff. Okay, cool. So here we go. Okay, so 20 plus yards down the field, Nebraska, 23%, 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Okay. Medium 10 to 19 range, passing wise, medium pass game, 41.2%, 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Short passing game, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions with an average depth of target of 1.7. Average depth of target means that's how far the ball is traveling before it hits the receiver's hands. Okay. What that tells you is we were barely throwing the ball past the line of scrimmage to be able to complete passes, barely. And that is why Nebraska found itself in so many third and long, second and long, third and long, constantly behind the sticks, behind the chains, because we didn't have that ability to get into third and short, second and short, third and short. I know we wanted to run the ball, right? But the problem with running the ball became the fact that our quarterbacks were so reliant, or we were so reliant on our quarterbacks for that run game, that they then became hesitant to run because they were getting beat up, they were getting injured, and then everything kind of fell by the wayside there. So QB's efficiency. All right, let's get into a little bit of the QB efficiency here from our overall quarterback room. Our overall efficiency of our quarterback room was ranked 104th in college football. Our third down percentage was 37%, which was 110th in college football. Red zone offense, 69%, was 128th in college football. Okay. Now, just looking at what McCord did, comparing that against to what they were looking at McCord essentially answered some of those questions. However, a lot of what we struggled with last year, McCord also struggled with. For instance, under pressure, Nebraska last year, 40% completion percentage under pressure. Kyle McCord under pressure, 39.2% completion percentage. Almost identical. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions from both. If you watch a lot of Raiola's game tape at Buford, and there's not advanced analytics for the high school ranks as I wish there was. A lot of what he does is he operates under pressure. He moves the pocket. He's mobile. He's able to make off-platform throws. He works with Jeff Christensen as his QB coach, who I believe also works with McCord, works with Mahomes, as we've seen. Christensen was also on campus. He's the one that people are kind of like talking about as potentially being a QB coach option. We'll see how that goes. But under pressure, 40%, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. When not blitzed, we were still 45%, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. When blitz, 54%, 4 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. Now, when looking at these advanced numbers, what this shows about our quarterback room was that there was no rhyme or reason for why we were consistent when we were and when we were struggling when we weren't. Because the actual best statistic we have here, and the best quarterback numbers that we have, was actually whenever we were blitzed. When our quarterback room was blitzed, we had 4 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, and a 55% completion percentage. Now, why do I think that is? I think when Harburg was sitting in the pocket and he had time to think about his throws, right? When he had to sit there and he had to think about making the throw, I think he was less likely to make the throw. Now, when he was able to move, navigate the pocket, operate, roll out, scramble, and have to throw across body, or he's rolling to his left and he's just kind of throwing a sidearm towards the sideline, he's not expected to complete the pass. Well, I think he would just play a little bit more loose. I think they would play a little bit more relaxed, and they were able to complete those passes. Okay. What Raiola, there was no system, essentially. What I'm getting at is there was no offensive system. And when there was no offensive system, it's why we couldn't find consistency. You can't look at this and be like, okay, so whenever we're being blitzed, when we're under pressure, we're throwing this. When we're clean pocket, we're throwing this percentage. We're throwing this amount of touchdowns. But there was nothing to point at and be like, okay, this is the problem. This is the problem. No, what it was essentially, it was no system. It was just sometimes we would have success. Sometimes we wouldn't. Okay. Now we have a quarterback that operates in a system, in a pro style system, who's going to be able to come in with confidence, fire the ball with confidence, who is going to be able to stretch the field, and kind of what Rhule wants is this. And I want to say no fear of failure. It's going to bring me back to Eric Chenander days. But what he wants is he wants somebody who's going to be confident in the pocket, who's able to be able to go out there and operate this offense, basically have another head coach out on the field and be able to run this offense that way. Last year, there wasn't enough of that. We had, no set system. We had no dynamicism. We had a short stretch where from the second to third quarter, we would get a little bit of our offense rolling with the run game, and then throw that short intermediate pass game out there. But as soon as that stalled, we had nothing left. Daniel Kalen, looking at Daniel Kalen, 4-star kid. He recently dropped a 3-star. A lot of that's to do with whether that be camps or whatever drops them in these rankings. I'm not 100% sure, but right about a 4-star, roughly 3-4-star French. Okay. Danny Kalen's going to kind of get lost in this news, but what Daniel Kalen has to offer is a lot of the same things, but just in a different. That's what I'm looking for. He's a little bit of a different quarterback, but can bring a lot of the same elements that Raiola would bring. If you look at his film, he's very confident. He's confident in his ball. He can move. He's mobile. But I think what the biggest thing they're looking for here is just command, right? Somebody who can come in and command presence of this offense. They can run this pro style system that Satterfield wants to run. They can get this run game, this run game, something to complement the run game more so. Looking at our offensive PFF grades last year, though, 54 offensive grade, 45.5% pass grade, 64 run grade, whereas the average of the Big Ten was 76, so 20 points higher of an offensive efficiency grade than Nebraska quarterback room last year. What that means is if Nebraska was on the same par as the rest of the Big Ten, just in terms of just quarterback, great. If they were on the same, the Nebraska would have been an 8-win team last year. Okay. Again, Georgia lost a couple of other people. I'm not sure how many of these people that they lost, if any, are looking at Nebraska. I know there's a lot of speculation on a lot of other guys, that have decommitted from their schools. And, we were looking at Princely, and a lot of fan speculation, but a lot of the things that we got to remember in the coming days is room right now. There's not a lot of room on this Nebraska roster. There's 85 spots, and Nebraska is still over on those slots, and there's still players projected to commit. Okay. So just know that the 24 class was full as it was, like minus maybe 1 or 2 people. I think the total we were looking at 2 weeks ago was potentially adding 3 or 4 people to the room. Looking at it now, it's probably going to be one of those things where it might be a body in for a body out. We have lost a couple over the last couple days from the class. Not sure if that's indicating any potential upcoming movement in the next couple days, but it is something to monitor. I'm seeing right here that Nebraska is officially up to number 19th on 24/7 composite recruiting rankings. 88.31 average, 7 4-stars, 1 5-star. We are currently behind Michigan at 16, USC 17, South Carolina 18, Ole Miss at 20. So let me see if I can find anything else on that for y'all. Also, if you haven't had a chance to check out the 1890 Collective on X, if you are on X on Twitter, 1890 on X, that is the Nebraska's NIL collective, and they take donations and stuff like that, and they give donation goals for the NIL and see what we're at as far as monetary value goes from the donations towards National Signing Day. The 500,000 goal for signing day was, I believe, was hit. But if you go on there and follow them, you'll get all the information and how that, collective is working. You can donate and stuff like that, etc. So that is another way you can help the program there. Let me see if I can find anything else in regards to. Yep. So it looks like it looks like about it. So I'm just going to start getting into some of y'all's comments here. Do you have any questions or anything like that? Anything that y'all want to talk about? Or Nebraska's a dump for Chevy 2-time, man. What are you doing? Come on. You Colorado fan? What are you doing in here? Does Minnesota have their own chat Oh, there's Minnesota fans in here? Oh, they're down bad, huh? Let's see, this was in Colorado, though. How about 10-2? Yeah. I don't think Colorado would be a loss. What Colorado's doing is they're building I saw a tweet the other day, and I agree with this. What Colorado's doing is they're building an offensive line through the transfer portal, and I I agree with the tweet that that's not really how you build an offensive line. You build an offensive line through the draft because that's the type of position that can't get very. It's hard to develop over the course of an offseason, right? You got to build a camaraderie with an offensive line, and so building an offensive line through the transfer portal is very difficult. And that's why Nebraska has been it's been so hard for Nebraska to build an offensive line. We want to attack the portal, we want to attack the portal, but the biggest way to attack the offensive line isn't through the portal, it's through recruiting and development. You may find a piece here and there to complement your offensive line, but to get 4 or 5 guys on your offensive line that are transfers in, it's going to be very, very hard to find any kind of, I guess, cohesiveness from that unit. 10-2 though, 10-2 with our schedule next year. Our schedule's tough. The schedule starts out really, really good, or really. I don't want to say easy. I'm tired of saying anything's easy, but our schedule starts out a little bit more favorable, if you will. And then they did us no favors in the back end there for sure. Thomas Fedoni, Carter Nelson, exactly. Yep, those guys are going to be huge, 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 huge pieces in this, and that's why. I wasn't really too necessarily worried about Carter Nelson or Fedoni going anywhere, because I think we're going to start to see what Satterfield can do with tight ends in this coming season. We just need to make good decisions, not turn the ball. Our offense QB1 play was lacking until we have a good QB1 coach. Problem still. And the story about the whole QB coach situation, right? So QB coach Satterfield was supposed to come in and coach tight ends and be the offensive coordinator. Jake Peetz was supposed to come in and be the quarterback coach. Jake Peetz fell through. Jake Peetz is the passing game coordinator, of course, for Rams, but was supposed to come in, and that kind of fell through the last minute. At that point, Satterfield then had to go and take the QB coach role as well, and that wasn't really the role that he was supposed to have. So, again, I think he got a lot of heat for that, but this hopefully we will see in the coming days who we do get. If it is Christensen, great. That would be amazing. But just having a quarterback coach and officially having a quarterback coach in there will make a huge difference. I don't know if you remember when Scott Frost didn't have a special teams coach, and then all of a sudden, we put Bill Bush over special teams, and our special teams got better. There's no secret behind that. And that's just something as simple as special teams. When you have somebody who can put all of their focus into that one thing, naturally it's going to improve. When it's something as important as the quarterback position, you need to have a high-level guy there. And I think Rhule realized that. And again, it's no knock on Satterfield, but just Satterfield was stretched so thin trying to deal with everything that Nebraska had going on with injuries and trying to find out which quarterback would give us the best position to win. And not only that, dealing with quarterback injuries as well. Yeah, it's rough, man. April 27th, spring game on Saturday, August 31st, UTEP. Yep. 150 yards, lack of progression reads, even seeing open players and turnovers. And that was what I was talking about. It's the confidence to make these throws that becomes the issue, right? Or that became the issue is, we would have guys in space. We would have guys down the hash, but you would see our quarterbacks look and hesitate. Once you hesitate, it's over. And I want to make a video. I'm going to make a more, thoughtful video on Raiola's tape and stuff like that. I have a lot of this film saved on my computer. I've watched through it. There's one throw in particular that he made, and it's a timing throw, right? And it's 45 yards down the field, 40, 50 yards down the field. The thing about throws 40, 50 yards down the field is you have a window, and it's like a quick half-second window to where you have to release that ball. And if you don't release that ball in that half second, that's going to give the safety, whoever that needs time to come over and make that play, right? There was a couple of balls where he dropped. I'm talking about like 2 inches over the outstretched finger of the safety coming over, in cover 2, where he's throwing up the middle, the safety coming over from the right hash to the middle to try to cover, or in cover 3, throwing down the right side, that middle safety tries to come over to cover that ball, and it sneaks right over his fingers. Those throws don't get completed unless he has the confidence to know that's my throw. I'm making it now. Go through his progressions. He's able to see the window, know the window, and make the throw, and also put enough zip on it to where he can make the throw and not air it out a little bit too much to where, that safety could come get underneath it. Again, only one interception last year, and in a high level of competition over there in Georgia. Buford's no joke, and that's why we offered 4 other Buford players. Again, if y'all weren't here with me in the beginning, I'll run them back through the other Buford players that I know of that we've offered. So 2026 linebacker CJ Sibley, 2026 D lineman James Morrow, 2026 D lineman Bryce Perry Wright, who is a 4-star, and 2024 offensive lineman Braden Jacobs, son of Brandon Jacobs. So November 23rd, Wisconsin Badgers 7-0 until Ohio State. Go Big Red. What has been done to protect Raiola past few years could have been Brady back there. It wouldn't have mattered. Well, the offensive line, I know it's been chastised, but looking through it, it's actually was significantly improved from years one to 2. Our offensive line, and it got better as the year went along. And that is with, we had injuries, and we had injuries up there, but, we're bringing back a lot of these guys. We have Grant Bricks coming in next season, and Grant Bricks is just a start. Again, like I said, we were limited on the size of this class and how many guys we could actually bring in just because we were so, this class was so full up. I think in 25 and 26, especially, we're starting to see a lot of offers come in for O-line and defensive line and edge rush as well. Dylan can improvise and make plays. Yeah, that's the biggest thing is his ability to operate, I guess, out of the confines of the offense, right? And with him, it's not improvising just to run. He's improvising to create. And when you improvise to create, what that does is it opens up so many doors to the offense because he can move. He can move. He's not Harbor. He's not as fast as a Harbor, but he can move. But what that does is, that ties up an extra 1 or 2 people on the field where they have to be cognizant of that ability. But that also, hurt us this past season because, they could have 1 or 2 spies on their quarterback and not have to worry about them getting beat by the arm. That's what teams would start to do a little bit later in the years. They would throw a spy or 2 out there, and they weren't worried about the pass threat. So they weren't worried about adding an extra 2 defenders out there to cover the quarterback run game because they knew that they were more likely to get gashed through the quarterback run game than they were through the pass game, right? It's little nuances in defensive schematics and stuff like that that doesn't jump off the page at people that make a huge difference. Like when you have to now use, you can't use 2 people to spy because now you need to have those guys doing their 1 of 11, on the defensive side of the ball to make sure that you can keep this offense in check. That's what a balanced offense does. That's what this balance of this offense is going to do now is it's going to stretch those defenses a little bit more thin where they have to use the resources where they need to use them. And now you get a guy out of position, all of a sudden, that's a 20, 30, 40-yard play. All right. Coach Prime is shopping for toasters and build a solid foundation. Now, a softer start to the schedule. Hey, if Colorado fans in here, man, I know y'all are hurting right now. I know you are feeling some pain right now. Nebraska not beating Colorado. Oh, man. Let's be honest. I mean, if we're being real, if Nebraska had, even a quarterback who could just catch a snap last year, they probably would have beat Colorado. Didn't Dylan bring his own QB coach? Yes. Jeff Christensen is who his QB coach was. Just Jeff Christensen. I think that's the guy that there's potential speculation could be potential for Nebraska's QB coach. I have no idea where. I mean, everything in regards to that right now has been kept close to the vest that I don't know if anybody has any indication. We've seen DeMichelle, we've seen Christensen, we've seen Peets. Those names have been kind of the 3 names have been floating around so far this entire offseason. And then, of course, Peets since last year. So Nebraska will have won 6 of their first 7 if they want to go bowling next year. Yeah, it's a tough slate to end the season for sure. Can't forget about the value receivers coming. Absolutely. We do have a lot of good receiver talent coming in, a lot of young talent. That's why this transfer portal is going to be very, very imperative to see, what kind of veteran receivers we can get in here, because looking at the receiver room as it sits, you have Marcus Washington, who's looking to get that waiver so he can come back, but missing a little bit of leadership right now, or veteran leadership, if you will, in that wide receiver room. So I'm really curious to see what we do in the coming days when it comes to that. I'm really curious to see if we make a harder push for, a Fleming or somebody like that, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't see any, I'm trying to look through right now and see if I see any movement on the wide receivers here, but it looks like the main guy getting the most traction right now seems to be Vincent Shavers. But he's linebacker. As far as just like looking at the tea leaves of who might be the next one in the boat, it's looking like Vincent Shavers. So, I'm a QB as a freshman. Is this just a random Colorado fan in here? He must be lost. He must not have nothing better to do. Yeah, average QB play to beat Colorado. Hunter Carbeck would have been QB1 to beat them this year. Grass Huskers Night, appreciate it. Sorry, I'm trying to get through some of y'all's comments here, but I got I'm going to the Nebraska Cornhusker football team going to play against the 2024 season. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not sure how we ended up getting Colorado fans in here, but Colorado, y'all better, that 4 wins really got y'all confident for some reason. But anyways, if y'all have anything else for me, I just wanted to pop in here and kind of go through this, talk through this with y'all for a little bit. With better quarterback play this past season, Nebraska wins at least 8 games. So if you actually look at the adjusted, so there was this page. I'm trying to remember college football data. I think they did this. What they did was and they do it every year. And Nebraska has had the top spot 3 of the last 6 years. Okay. And what it is they take all of the plays for all of the games this season, right? They take it a game by game basis and they randomize the order of the play. They randomize the results. They randomize, fumbles, penalties. They just take the play results and they put them in just a random order, as if, Nebraska didn't Nebraska, as if we didn't fumble late in the game. And what that does is it puts everybody on a level playing field, and it gives you a win expectation. And what it said was basically Nebraska and UCF, 2 former Scott Frost schools, mind you, were both 1, right? They were both 1 as far as win expectancy or wins below expected wins, right? So they were Nebraska 5 wins, and the win expectancy with those plays randomized was 8, which means basically essentially what we already know, that Nebraska is the most unlucky team in college football. When the Nebraska, it's not necessarily just the number of turnovers, even though it's not even just necessarily that. Even with all of those turnovers mixed in, Nebraska still could have won 8 games. It was still the timing of the penalties, the timing of the turnover, etc. So that right there, UCF and Nebraska were actually tied 3.3 wins below expectation. So Nebraska, for all intents and purposes, without the timing of some of these gaffes last year, was an 8-win team with that, with that formula. Of course, they weren't an 8-win team, but you get my point. Essentially, that kind of gives you an idea of what it would have looked like had things not been Nebraska up or Scott Frost up, since UCF was also up there. The DB room with loss. Omar Braun. So I still think, our defensive backs are probably our strongest, are one of our strongest rooms. Going into last season, I still thought they were probably my favorite of the rooms, and I think the depth there is perfectly fine. I think especially on the defensive side of the ball, I think with Tony White, getting the raise this offseason, I think Tony White is going to be able to recruit essentially, his wish list to there, or, you know, go after any transfers that he kind of wants to go after. And we're starting to see that, you know, we're starting to see a lot of these wheels turning with some of these defensive backs and linebackers. As I mentioned before, I will say the most recent as far as defensive backs goes, Larry Tarver, the cornerback recruit. Let me pull up Larry Tarver for you. So Larry Tarver, TRU Prep Academy. He is a Maryland Terrapin, and he is currently 97% projected to flip. So Larry Tarver, he's a guy. He's been committed since June of 2023 to Maryland and is projected to flip with Nebraska. And he is an 86th rated 3-star, the 98th ranked cornerback. And if we're, let's click on Nebraska's on-3 ranking. So Nebraska's on-3 ranking right now is 22nd and 6th in the Big Ten. And that is with Raiola included. So, yeah. So 89.46 average, 22nd overall. I think somebody said 19th on 24/7. So Nebraska corners football team is going to play against UTEP first time. Whole team, we got 2 months to Nebraska. It says that. All right, CJ, we're just gonna put CJ in a timeout. He's gonna get on my nerves. Nebraska corners football team holding their. Yes, he is a Buffaloes fan. That's why I'm curious as why he's in here. Just I guess he likes to hear himself talk. I don't know. Okay. Isaiah McMorris. Okay, so let's go through some of this recruiting class here. For those of you that may have not seen it, we'll go through some of these. So Gardner Nelson, of course. We got Grant Bricks. Those are the crown jewels. You know, the biggest targets of the class were Gardner Nelson and Grant Bricks. Preston Tuama, interior offensive lineman. Roger Gadney, safety. Mario Buford, cornerback. Davon Hall, wide receiver, Bellevue. There's one of those Bellevue receivers we were talking about, Ja'Cory Barney, who people are really excited about. And then Isaiah McMorris, the other Bellevue receiver. Then we got Omaha West Side, Caleb Benning, 88.12 rated. Willis McGahee the fourth. So Willis McGahee the fourth, related to former running back Willis McGahee. And then we have potentially Braden Jacobs, son of Brandon Jacobs, coming in here. So now we have a system of former NFL running backs since the former NFL wide receiver thing didn't work out with old Keyshawn Johnson Jr. But all right, guys. Well, I wanted to pop on here with y'all for a little bit and kind of get the news going with y'all, kind of take y'all through some of my thoughts, get some of y'all's thoughts and stuff like that. If y'all if you have any more thoughts before I head out, let me know. If any of y'all would like to, actually, 1 second. Let's say if anybody would like to pop in the show, but I don't know. There's some Colorado fans in here. I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube if they try to pull some crazy stuff. So I will be, but I do want to give y'all a heads up. So we are doing our live stream tomorrow, and we'll take you through everything National Signing Day wise. It's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern, you know, right here at Nebraska Football, the voice of college football. We do our Tuesday live streams. We're going to get you prepped for everything else, National Signing Day. And then starting this Thursday, I will be doing a call-in show. That's what I was about to do. I was about to just see if anybody would want to pop in here and call in. But starting this Thursday, if y'all do want to call in and discuss anything, ask questions, do anything like that, feel free to drop by. I will be in, I'm probably going to do 7 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be here, and you can hop in, you can call, you can ask questions, do whatever you got to do. So every Thursday, 5 p.m. Or 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be on here doing live call-ins. And as well, I will also be doing some breakdowns more in depth. I will do try to get y'all a breakdown video. So trying to find all the film that I can on him. So stay tuned for that. If you do like what we do here, please feel free to leave a like on the stream, subscribe to the channel. I really love, hanging out with y'all doing this. So, feel free, the more the merrier. If y'all want to join me, come on, give your takes, do whatever you got to do. Argue with Colorado fans. We can do that too. I like to argue as well. So we'll get that rocking and rolling. But I appreciate everybody joining me. Go Big Red. Dylan Raiola is officially a Cornhusker. It is a reason to celebrate. It's a day to celebrate. Everything is up from here, ladies and gentlemen. And with that being said, my name is Justin Adams. This is Nebraska Football at the Voice of College Football, and I will catch y'all tomorrow or Thursday, whenever I see y'all. All right, peace.